So to follow up on last week's podcast, Blake, you went to Shake Shack in America. How was it?
Yeah, I did, dude. It was greasier, but it was basically the exact same taste. So I was pretty excited that it tasted the same, except for I did feel a little bloated afterwards.
Yeah.
That was my consequence. I'm like, I knew it. I knew that there was gonna be some kind of catch, but it did taste almost the exact same. It was
Yeah.
really good though.
You're gonna go back more
Sam,
often
my
now?
wife Sam, she ate it and she's never had it either. So having it here, obviously she didn't go to Mexico with me to experience it, but I was like,
Yeah.
we gotta go to Shake Shack. We gotta go do this taste test. And she ate it. She took a bite and she goes, "Oh my God, this is so good." And I was like, "What do you rate it?" And she's like, "I think I give it a 10." And I said, "It's that good?" And she said, "Yeah, it's really, really good."
That's
So
funny.
we're probably going back to Shake Shack a lot more in the near future.
I did joke with Lindsay that I said we're gonna go back to North Carolina and everyone's gonna be like, let's just go to Shake Shack. Because our family is notorious for finding something we like and just continuing to go. Which,
Yeah, we kill them a lot of times if we
oh
find
yeah,
something we like.
Sonny's barbecue. That's the staple of it. Which out here, my favorite restaurant out here, if it was closer, I would go to it way more. But it's about a 30, even all the way up to a 45-minute drive. It's like, I should probably keep it at a distance just so I can stay
Just make sure you don't
more.
ever move close to it.
Yeah, essentially. I was close. I was like 20 minutes away from it yesterday, and I was like, ugh, that's
So
pretty
the Sunny's in Concord is still there. The Sunny's in
somehow.
Mooresville is been it's been bought and it's being renovated to
Spirit
what's that?
Halloween.
The smoke pit.
Oh, it's gonna be a smoke pit. So it
But
upgraded.
what's crazy is yeah, it's they basically like tore apart the entire building, but then restructured a lot of things to where the outside's kind of brick. So I don't know why they didn't just start from scratch. Like how
Yeah,
much
it sounds like they
they
should have.
renovated it, it's like you might have kept maybe 1,000 square
Did they
foot
keep
worth
the
of.
salad bar?
I have no clue.
That was the only thing
It's
left.
it's destroyed. The whole building is gone,
That's funny.
basically.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things. Every time I go back, I find something different. And then like even I saw I think the BJ McLeod, is that how you say his last name?
Yeah.
Uh I think his business, family, whatever, they put in a roller coaster or one of those coasters that you can control the seat on in Pigeon Forge. And I recognize the spot they put it in. We don't have any connection to the spot other than we've just been to Pigeon Forge a lot of times. But I knew where it was, and I was like, oh, that was kind of a cool little corner. Never went to
Mm,
anything over there. It was just a cool spot to look at. But
yeah.
yeah, it's all gone now. But every time I go back to Concord area, it's just more apartments coming in all the time and more roads
Dude,
being
I have
worked
to
on.
work in them now. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah, it's unfortunate. But let's get into Pocono. Nothing happened, so we're just gonna speed right through this one.
Nothing fun happened at
Nope,
Pocono for me at all.
nope. You just start pointing towards you. Yeah, Blake's got his devil on the shoulder, as I was joking about. But let's get into it. Okay. Anyway. All right, Pocono in the books. It was a very typical Pocono weekend for a viewer, but for Blake, it was a pretty fun weekend. Tell us about
Dude, we finally got the monkey off our back. We got our
it.
win.
Yeah.
It's so it kind of makes up for Nashville. That was our Nashville truck.
Oh,
I didn't know that until we were talking in the hauler that this was the Nashville truck. So this thing's pretty sporty, and I'm sure we'll see it again sometime this year. I'm trying to think of what track, maybe Phoenix. I'm not
well,
sure.
so can I ask a question off of that real quick?
Yeah,
Um, how long do y'all typically use a truck if you just race it clean and it never gets wrecked? But like this Nashville truck was brand new at Nashville, right?
correct.
How long will it go, do you think?
That I don't have an exact answer on, to be honest. I would
Hmm.
think it'll probably go a full year if it doesn't get wrecked, because a lot of it is based on the nose clip, bumper, that stuff.
Yeah.
So the body panels and everything are fit to, the spec of the 2025 nose and bumper. So your front clip and rear clip, but I would think the whole year, if it doesn't have an accident, it would
Yeah.
be used numerous times for whatever track that package, aero package, it would be ran at. but I know that that's the new truck. I want to say we might have one more new truck
Yeah.
coming or two. I'm not sure. I want to say someone was talking about it the other day, but it varies, man. You could have 10 of 25 races, 10 races, every truck's new. So,
Well, do y'all have three different trucks at all times? Like one for like mile and a half, 2 miles, whatever, just normal speedways. One for road courses and one for super speedways, or
also don't have a great answer on that.
hmm
A lot of times they are like I know for a fact the short track truck we had or have or had, I don't know if it's being used again or not, was a Hattori truck from like 2019, but with short tracks you don't need a lot of downforce, so the chassis and some of the body parts can be a little bit more aged because it doesn't matter as much. Nashville, Pocono, you kind of need to have the quote unquote newest generation of parts. So like I said, the Nashville truck and like everybody talked about on TV when they were talking about Lane, this was a new truck. So I think this was the second race it's ran, but very fast truck. But to answer your question, they have numerous trucks, so they're kind of always at the ready to use for said whatever race is coming or what they want to put it towards. But they don't have like a row of trucks sitting at the shop ready to go. They kind of keep it two or three on each side, one for Chandler, one side's for
yeah,
Lane. That's how they do it over there at the shop. So sometimes when I stop by to see them, check the truck, get equipment gear, whatever.
you just go
They
in and
usually
start
have
slapping tires. Like, yep,
nice and aired up.
yep, that's Wubba.
But they have you still have a couple weeks out race truck being worked on that's in kind of the early development. There's like usually no motor in it.
hmm
Obviously no suspension stuff. But then they'll have usually our backup and Chandler's backup is next to the primary with whatever's going to be going to the racetrack. So it's not I don't have a perfect answer for you, but it's like I said, it's not like if you go to a big cup team where they have a row of cars ready to
Yeah,
go, or this was a car that was used at this track that'll kind of get restored and reused somewhere else. That's
yeah,
something that honestly we'll probably get one of the guys from the shop. Maybe we'll get Dylan on at some point, my crew chief, and we can ask him that. So
yeah, that'd be
let's
awesome.
clip that question for a later date.
Yeah, I have always wondered because, of course, if you go to Hendrick, and you walk around the
Yeah,
shops, it just looks like there's so many cars. Just looks like they have a brand new car for every track, and
right.
I'm sure that that's true to some degree. Um, I don't know if it's a new car every weekend. I wouldn't go there, but like they can afford to make newer cars uh, more often. And front row is definitely not at the bottom of the barrel at all in the way of like they can
No.
definitely produce something new. But I have always wondered how often are they making new trucks? How often is this like in a way a Frankenstein truck? And yeah, kind of like you have a car and then you have another car for just for parts. If
Mm.
you, yeah, especially if but all right, yeah, yeah. Keep talking about Pocono, y'all. Spoiler, y'all won.
Yeah, big spoiler. We won Pocono. We finally got over the hump. We put a whole race together that everything finally just fell in the right place. Like, I mean,
hmm
I'm not going to say the 11 was going to run away with it because
Y'all did get help from them having issues
well,
and the
we had
seven
help with
also
the
having issues.
11, having a flat tire. And
Yeah.
once that happened, I internally thought to myself, I said, I think this is ours for to give up and
Yeah.
to lose. And I guess kind of the luck we've had this year, I was thinking it might happen, but I was just like, I just kind of zoned out. I was like, all right, we got 22 laps to go or whatever it was when we took the green flag. We just need 22 clean laps, no one wreck. I think 4 or 5 laps into the race or into the restart, the 88 had a flat tire, and I looked at my truck chief, Alex, and I saw he was just like, oh no, there's about to be a caution. He realized after about 3 or 4 seconds of looking at the TV, he's like, "Oh, he's on pit road. Cool. There's not going to be a caution."
Yeah.
And I kind of patted him on the back. I was like, "Deep breaths, man. Like it's all going to be good, one way or another." And I think I talked to my buddy Zunk, who's on Corey Haim's truck the
That's a cool
next
name.
day. Yeah, I talked to him the next day at the track. I said, "Man, that race yesterday was going to basically be whoever got out front. It was going to be the 11 or the 34s to lose."
hmm
And he said, "Yeah." And I asked him, I said, "Did y'all have like a legit flat tire, or was it something?" a spoof? And he said no. When they came down pit road, the right rear had a huge screw in it, like right in the middle.
Oh wow.
And in the replays, I didn't see it until later, but
And
I
then you
could see
found a
it the right.
box of screws in Lane's truck.
Yeah, just we're out here playing
He's
Mario Kart.
he just chucks it.
Which is even funnier because Josh, our spotter, came over the radio to Lane under that caution when we were about to take the green. He's like, "Hey, the 11's radioing in saying he thinks he has a flat. Can you see a flat?" And Lane goes, "No." And s
What?
but Lane
They're
couldn't see it.
crazy.
Lane was on the 11's left side and it was the right rear. So,
Uh,
um, yeah, I definitely thought that was kind of comical later on after kind of looking back at it. But special day, really cool. I've actually won
hmm
at Pocono one other time with Grant and Finger in ARCA back in
hmm Okay.
2016.
Yeah.
So I'd seen the winner's circle then. It's changed. I'd seen the trophy before. I'd never picked up the trophy. Got to pick up the trophy this weekend. I guess I'm gonna get one, a replica.
That's cool.
And it's probably 30 pounds. It's a
I
heavy freaking trophy.
I actually did make a note based off of you sent, the family group chat some pictures of Victory Lane.
Hmm.
And that's not just Lane celebrating in Victory Lane. That you were just in Victory Lane celebrating. Uh but when I saw the trophy, I was like, that's the most American trophy I've ever seen.
For real. Like, who would think that the trophy at like a triangular track in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania would be an American eagle, just flapping away.
Yeah.
Uh,
I just imagine there's a bottle opener on the bottom for a beer and everything.
Honestly, like I
That'd be
mean,
kind of
maybe
sick.
I'll just drill a hole in the bottom of mine and put one in there.
Or
I
may
really, honestly, no, I'm not gonna do that. That
no.
trophy is legitimately really heavy. We could put it on the
Yeah.
side because it's so weighted. You could just pop top right there and
Or just hopefully maybe they should at least if they haven't done this yet, adjust the beak of the American or the eagle to be wide enough to just open a bottle off of it. Yeah. And then we just start, we already want some parity in NASCAR. Let's go with the trophies being having some parity.
yeah, yeah. It's a heavy trophy. I'll whenever I get it, you'll have to try and pick it up and
But y'all were
stuff.
good throughout the race. It wasn't just like a fluke that y'all, the 11 and the 7 having issues. I think the 7 had a penalty at the end, but like y'all still were a strong truck. Y'all struggled on restarts, if I remember right. Like it just kind of
Two
got shuffled a bit.
two of the three restarts, Lane, I remember didn't like the green flag to start the race. I remember he took off well going to turn one. The 45 had side drafted him well
Yeah.
enough to get to his inside. I think Lane drove it in a little deep and washed up the track some,
hmm
and he went to third place. We stayed there, went to second. The 11 pitted early. No, we went to third. We stayed in third. The 11 and the 7 pitted early. We won stage one.
Yeah.
I think the coming back from that stage, we were not in the front row. And then to start stage two, or stage three, technically, we were front row. We had a good restart, but then
You
we
are
had the
front
couple
row.
of, we are front row motorsports, but we had a good restart after the third stage starting. And I remember thinking, I'm like, oh, okay, if we get out front, can we stay in front of the 11?
Yeah.
And then we had the few cautions that really changed the perception of the day because we were 5 laps short on fuel. So everybody was kind of in conservation mode. And we're like, should we be, trying to run a different strategy so we can make it to the end? With those caution laps and the wrecks happening, it kind of became something that was a thing that we didn't care about anymore once we had those few cautions.
Yeah.
We were able to know like, okay, we're good. We're good enough to run to the end and probably have one green white checkered. If we had a green white checkered, we would possibly be on the edge of running out. So,
Yeah.
um, but no, I think between us and the 11, we were the best trucks. Probably could throw the 7 in there.
7 was definitely around there.
I feel like the 11 and the 34 were the best trucks. I think the 7 was a close second, but we
Absolutely.
also never really saw him out front. At least I don't remember seeing him out front very
Yeah.
much, but he could do. So once the 11 was kind of out at the end, I was like, this is ours to lose though. And
Yeah.
it turned out to be our day.
It was. It was really cool to watch, but we are spending a little bit longer on the trucks just because, you don't win every week, so we
No,
get to talk about it
it's all
more.
good.
And I mean, I will say, last year it was a struggle to win, but then once y'all broke that seal, what y'all won two in a row, almost three. So let's hope
Almost
that
three. And
happens again.
I did, I was talking to Gaddy about that. I was talking to somebody else. And I said, I feel this like doing this podcast this week versus last week, I mentally feel better. And like we all felt this pressure. Like we
Yeah.
legitimately felt pressure every week because we knew that the playoffs were coming. We weren't completely locked in unless we won or we started to feel the pressure of these other teams when the 52 won. We
Hmm.
had the nine's been fairly close a few weeks, so it was one of those
You weren't
feelings that was
comfortable.
we weren't comfortable and we're like
Yeah.
we got to break into victory lane. So once we did, I wouldn't be surprised if we just start ripping them off one by one. I think uh I think it's going to be a fun time from here on out. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've been talking about your win and everything. We forgot the most important part of the podcast, which is the scheme shout outs. Uh,
Owen
th-
loves his scheme shout
I
outs.
thought the 17 truck looked really cool this
I thought
week.
the 17 looked pretty cool too.
And then I also
Which the
thought the
bare knuckle
5 looked
brawl truck, this bare knuckle brawl truck is one of my favorites as well.
really.
So
I think my
I do
favorite
like
of y'all's is the love scheme. I don't know why. It just pops for me.
the love scheme
It's a
is
good
pretty
yellow.
sexy. I think it's got like a timeless look to it because it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
But
the bare
also
knuckle
the
brawl truck is pretty cool. I
it
like
is
this
cool.
one a lot.
I like it. It didn't spark
Didn't
nothing.
take it didn't take the cake, but it
No,
was
it
in
took the trophy.
conversation.
But
It did take the trophy.
the one that really took the cake for me this weekend was the 5 truck. I'm kind of a sucker for Sunoco fuel schemes whenever I've seen them. There's not a lot,
You
but
know
I've
what that scheme reminded me of a little bit? William Byron's old flame car. Like the colors and how it looked in the front. It gave me the
a little
was it
bit. I could see that. Yeah.
2018 to like 2022
Yeah,
blue and it was like the dark blue Exalta scheme.
I
That's what
could
it
see
looked
that.
like from the front.
But yeah, I want Sunoco to sponsor more cars because their schemes are just cool and their colors are good race car uh
It's
uh
good colors on cars.
yeah, good palette for cars. But let's go ahead and get into the top 10. Obviously, number one, Lane Riggs getting it done, starting from
Woo!
the pole, finishing number one. Tanner Gray had a good day. I feel like the 15 is one of those trucks that can run well, but
I
just
think he's gonna get a win too. He's been
well,
quick most weeks.
not only him, but Caden Honeycutt. He's just continuously in the top 10 after doing all these. Brandon Jones gets a good fourth. I won't keep going on just in linear order, but Connor Mozak was one to really shout out. Like, I feel like he's another one. Kid's starting to have better runs, but just something happens at one point. And then Stuart Friesman follows up a win from last week with an eighth
Are you
place
saying
finish.
Friesman?
Did I say Friesman? What is it? Friesman?
Friesen.
Friesen.
Stuart
Uh,
Friesen.
I would like to go by Friesen. That would be kind of cool.
Friesman.
I've been having a craving for McDonald's fries. I finally itched it yesterday on the way
Was it
down to,
good?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know why I was craving them, but we were driving down to Huntington Beach and I told Lindsay, I was like, I'm going to get these. We have a long drive. Um, but yeah, so let's move on into the Xfinity race. I just went first. Shout out to y'all again. You had a pretty good weekend on both of your cars. Y'all finished what, 12th?
Yeah, 11th or 12th.
But yeah, y'all were pretty solid on that. And I will say, again, I'm sorry you didn't make my scheme shout out, but
It's
my
all
wife
good.
did say the 51 car is cool,
It's
and
bright.
it was bright. She likes those bright colors. Connor Zilch, the winner. I'll get the scheme shout outs out of the way right now. The 19 was cool for 7 laps. The 45 was pretty cool, and the 44 was nice. But yeah, y'all say it was pretty good.
We had some adversities on pit road, some things that made the car a little bit difficult to pit. We had extra threads on both right front and left front.
What does that mean?
Um,
Like, did it show threads at one point, or?
so to pass tech each week, there's a certain amount of like width you're allowed to have on the front and the rear. How much, you know, it's hard to explain. From left side to right side, you can only have X amount to go through tech.
Hmm.
And so they had to take out some spacers behind the wheel to narrow it some to pass tech. And so when I got to the track Saturday, my buddy Gabe that works for the 51 came up to me and he's like, "Hey man, I'm sorry." And he just kind of gave me that look. And I said, "What?" And he's like, "We kind of screwed you." And I said, "Oh, no." And he said, "We had to do some stuff to pass tech." So the first pit stop was really excruciatingly long, and I apologized to the guys and stuff, but I was trying to put a spacer back in it, so it made it more pittable. So I only had two or three threads showing, so the lug nuts come off faster. I had like five. And
Mm.
ideally, you do not want to go past three. But I digress. I got one spacer on the right side, so the only side that was kind of long was the left side. Um, just you're more prone to having loose wheels and stuff, slower pit stops by having extra threads. So that's the idea is the teams try to have it in a small threshold of 1 to 3 threads showing, which I mean a thread is dude, it's like a centimeter or two. So I mean you're talking about like 5 threads is this much, 3 threads is like this much.
Yeah.
So it's enough to make a difference, but it's enough to also make a tire changer's life kind of annoying.
Mm. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. But
Hmm.
that I had a question off that. I can't really remember. But yeah, it was funny yesterday going on to how the race went. I thought the Xfinity race was probably the most interesting race out of all
It was pretty
three.
solid.
Yeah, but it was funny because Chase Elliott being in it, and
You honestly, like, I thought for a little while there, I was like, Owen picked it right. Chase Elliott might go on to win this.
well,
And then
yeah,
that didn't happen.
yeah. It was really funny because again, my wife is a big Chase Elliott fan, so she, in the Cup Series, he hasn't been up front like he was on Saturday. So she's like, he's gonna win it all, and then Allgaier just ran it in way too hard, and she's like, I hate Allgaier now.
That's who I picked, ironically.
Yeah, and it was funny because we've been fans long enough to know that's like this just happens,
It's racing.
yeah, and she's just like, he should have won. Like the whole day was like, they know he should have won. They're not talking
He
about him
was
enough.
there.
Yeah, he had the winning car, and I was like, this is how it goes sometimes. You could lead the whole
I'm gonna need
race.
an Uncrustable while we podcast, by the way.
That's fine. But not a sponsor, but we would take their money.
I eat
But
these all the time at the racetrack, man.
I
It's become
got
like a running joke.
I worked a gig like a couple months ago, and they had Uncrustables and they're crafty, and I was like the first time I've had Uncrustables since probably elementary school, and I was like, these are kind of good, but there's only
They
four in the
slap.
pack. But
I get the 10 pack.
I could see that, yeah, that's probably the way to go.
Me and
But
Jack kill these things.
Dale Jr. wins, first time being
As
as
a crew chief.
yeah, as a crew chief. That's first. He's batting 1,000. I think they put up a stat that said crew chief wins. Dale Jr. 1,000.
Yeah.
Others 0.34 or something. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow. But yeah, Zilich. That means he was the winner. He was pretty good all day. He was up front, kind of like y'all. Like wasn't Chase Elliott dominant if he was up front, but that was the thing about the races was just it just seems so hard to pass a Pocono. I feel like that's always been
Clean
the
air is king at
yeah.
Pocono, man. Like, we saw it a little bit in the cup race, maybe to even
A
like
lot
start
of
the
bit in the Cup
transition.
race.
Transition. I didn't get to watch, but maybe the last about 50 laps,
Oh yeah,
40. Right when the green flag stops started for that last stage, I was able to tune in, and I didn't know if Chase Elliott or Chase Briscoe had had the dominant car, or if it was kind of how things were filtering. So I was trying to put together the pieces, but it's the same thing as what it was for trucks. For once Lane got out front, took off.
yeah.
The 88 got out front, took off. So it really
That's
came down to putting yourself in a position to win at the end, and then having the car to be able to either make a couple passes or just once you got out front, you were good enough to be there. I'm not
yeah,
saying that the 34 or the 88 were just good enough to be there, but if you were a top 2 or 3 truck and you had the lead at the end, it was yours to lose.
absolutely. And that's something we really saw. Like Zilich and Love had a pretty good race at the end to go for it, and Zilich did he straight up passed the two. And
Yeah,
so that's why I say I think the Xfinity performs the best there right now, but it's still just like I guess you can get a better run in the Xfinity cars and the way they're set up. But yeah, when we get into the Cup race, we'll definitely talk something about that. But let's just do the top 10 real quick then. The only ones I can really shout out is like Christian Eckes.
I saw he finished third.
Yeah, I think that's his best so far. And then Ryan Sieg in fifth. That was pretty good on him.
Nice, nice.
Everything else kind of falls into, some of the drivers coming in.
Yeah, we finished 11th or 12th. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it wasn't any worse than 12th, but
Yeah, I think
honestly,
it
like
was
that
12 when
was
I was looking.
probably the best overall car we've had as in raw speed all year with the 51 was Pocono Saturday.
Yeah,
It's a damper as a pit crew guy when your car finishes well, but you really can't provide great pit stops. I mean, we're obviously making adjustments to the car and helping, but when he has a great finish and you don't feel like you were able to contribute anything, it kind of it
yeah.
leaves you a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth when you're like leaving the track, heading home. Like it's nothing really to hang your hat on. Like I said, in my first stop, I was trying to make some adjustments to help pit stops. Second stop, I think we had some other adjustments for my rear changer Jacob. And then third stop, we were able to do a good overall clean stop, but it's still just it leaves this kind of weird taste in your mouth that you're like, I didn't help him get to 12th. You're like, if anything, I kind of hindered his day.
Yeah.
So kudos to Jeremy and the guys on putting together a good car, putting together a good race, good strategy, and driving a great race. So really, I can't say it was much of the pit crew helping the 51 Saturday, but it was definitely a race and a day that we can all take away and be proud of and happy, when you look at it at by the books
Yeah.
later on in the season. We're like, oh yeah, we finished 12th at Pocono. So
Hey,
it'll be one of those things I'll forget about it and move on.
yeah. I mean, you can't win every race, literally. Um, Chase Briscoe takes home the win in the Cup race. Good, like that was really good race on his part. And I was kind of listening to a couple NASCAR media stuff, but before we got into this, but it was just really talking about the clean air is king, and it really showed because Chase Briscoe was on like saving fuel mode,
Yeah.
and Denny Hamlin couldn't get by him. And Denny Hamlin was the dominant car all day, just overall the best. He qualified on the pole, just won the first stage, was just a good car all around. And yet he couldn't really get by him. He would just get too tight, especially the through the tunnel turn. And it just that was one thing that was a bummer about Pocono this weekend, where it was just like it became clear once it got stretched out. It was I don't know. The restarts is where you had to make it the most. There were people that could make their way back through, but it just felt like once you got to the top four, top five, it was like gonna get really, really tough. Which is good. I like that, if you're in the top five and you're one of the top five cars, like that's where the battle really, really starts in a way. But I don't know. It was just kind of an odd race, just watching it. I was watching it on the beach, which was kind of funny. I was actually glad there was a 2 hour rain delay because I forgot that it started at 11. And at 11 o'clock, I was not thinking about the race because I was like, it starts at 12 or 12:30 my time.
Mm.
And so I turned it on. I was like, whoo, some good timing. And so for us, right when we got on the beach, the race had started. But
Yeah, honestly, I probably would have missed the whole thing because of the stuff we did yesterday afternoon.
yeah,
We went and had like a small family photo shoot, and then we went to the pool. And I think once we got home, I had turned it on with like 40 laps to go. So honestly, if there was no rain delay, I don't know if
yeah,
I would have seen any of it.
yeah. Scream shout outs real quick. The four actually makes it this week because I almost shouted it out the other week. The
Oh yeah,
44
Miller Tech.
duty on Brennan Poole's part. I just like the car looked good. And
I
then
actually really liked Briscoe's Bass Pro Shop car. I thought that
it
was
looks
cool.
good. Yeah.
I have
I
a
liked it.
gnat in here.
I actually probably would have put the 12 in there. I actually really like that scheme, but I didn't. The 99 also looked good. It was pretty simple, but I like those colors a lot. As we said, there's the cleaner dominant. There was a couple things throughout the race that were kind of a bummer. Like Brad Keselowski was having a very good race, but they just made a weird move going into pit road whenever it was
Oh,
closed. It
I
was
actually
just,
saw that this morning. So I didn't realize that when he pitted, it was under yellow, but it was when the pit road was closed.
yeah,
So they had to start at the tail end of the field.
yeah. He still drove
And
back to
he
to
drove back to the front. I don't know where he finished, but I know
ninth.
that I saw that and they were all like, man, we might have really screwed our day up right now. So
Yeah, that was the thing. But it was nice to see the flash of Brad K being back up front and being able to run up front, which was really cool. But actually, just to talk about RFK in general, Chris
the
Buescher,
17 was fast.
17 was fast and charging it, and he might have had the best car by the end. But again, I think Denny Hamlin was the most consistent throughout the day. Uh, but yeah, he finishes fourth, and then Priest finishes eighth, and Keselowski ninth. That's like the second race in the past couple weeks that RFK has finished top 10. So they are
They're starting to
definitely
put it
getting
together.
going. And so is Legacy. John Hunter Nemechek
I've
comes
been
on
really, really
sixth, and
happy
Jones is in the top
seeing
15.
the 42 and 43 fast.
Yeah.
That was very puzzling for a little while, like 2 years ago, seeing them just run like 25th and worst.
Yeah, and if you look at them and they're not I don't I have an alliance with another team, so they're making their own notes and data. And so
All their
I
setup stuff is
maybe that's
in-house.
starting to work in now. There's definitely a longer end game to their
Well, so
strategy.
I actually talked to my buddy Hunter Masling. He's a changer over there.
John Hunter.
No, just Hunter. So I was talking to Hunter. It was towards the beginning of the season, and I can't remember what we were doing or what came of it, but he's either at 2311 this year. I think he's at 2311, not Legacy this year.
Oh, yeah,
But
that's a story this weekend.
he was talking to Jimmy Johnson last year. He just asked him what's like the most challenging part of becoming an owner now, along with he sometimes drives. And he said before when he was just, driving the 48 for Hendrick Motorsports, he never had to fire anybody. He never had to make any decisions about letting people go or changes, especially with a lot of these people are people Jimmy and anybody like another executive high up bring in.
Hmm.
So he said that's been the biggest thing. That's it sucks when you have to let like your friends go that have worked in the sport for a long time, but we need to make a change,
Yeah.
and you have to let people go. He said that's the hardest part, and it's something that I remember when Hunter told me that. I said, I never really thought of that, being that
Hmm.
I've always been on the hey, they're making a change, like I get swapped with somebody else, or I got let go, or hey, they're
Yeah.
gonna bring in a different team, you're getting moved to this team. So that's something that I'd never thought about from a driver's perspective, going from being a driver to then being like a team owner, is you're calling the shots because you got to perform. Like you got manufacturer money coming in, sponsor dollars coming in. So when they're paying this X amount of money, they want to see, they want to see performance, they want to see good results. And that first year or two for Legacy, they didn't really put together a whole lot. So he was telling me that that was what Jimmy said was the most difficult part of being a team owner now is when you're letting people go that are your friend. They've been with you since it could be like decades of a friendship, that like, hey,
Yeah.
this guy was great when I was at Hendrick Motorsports or wherever he might have gone. So I'm gonna bring him here and it just doesn't work. And I said,
Yeah.
you know what? That's a really interesting topic. I never really thought of that as a side or a piece of being an owner, but it does make total sense. So
Yeah.
I'd be really heartbroken if I had to bring people in that I care for as a friend and I know they can perform and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. It's part of the business, unfortunately, but yeah, that sucks. But yeah, I mean, it's happy to see them performing better and really to see that those wheels start to turn more and more. But yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about the Cup race outside of that. Kyle Larson is becoming a storyline. If he doesn't, I kind of don't view next week as like a big like storyline for him because it's just being a super speedway drafting track, like anything can happen. But I was kind of thinking to myself that in the coming weeks, particularly at tracks that he would normally perform really well at, like if he is not back on top of it, he is in one of the worst slumps he's probably been in a while. And I
Mm.
I thought for a while, I'm like, I don't think the double will get him. He's someone that bounces back pretty quickly, but maybe. I don't know. I kind of want him to go race in some sprint car races, win, get his confidence back up, and get back going. But it also just Pocono in general, Hendrick just didn't have the speed. Chase Elliott by the end, obviously top five, had the speed, but William Byron had a fast car all day. But then once he got stuck in the back, he finished like 27th or something like that.
Ooh,
And so yeah, and then the I don't know where the 48 finished, but it was just kind of like none of them were crazy competitive.
wasn't a typical Hendrick Motorsports day.
Byron and Elliott showed the most potential and competitiveness in the way that they were running up front, but Larson fought his way back to finish seventh and just kind of was able to stand his ground. But overall, like he was not a big mover on any stat. So yeah, hopefully they can get it back together. Not just saying that from a fan perspective, but just as a way of like that's one of our big superstars in the sport. Let's see them. That's I have the same hope for Kyle Busch. So
Yeah, absolutely.
which he had a rough race. And so did 2311. You said 2311 earlier. All three of their cars, two of them wrecked due to
I think
brake
they finished
issues.
like 32, 35th, and 36 or something like that.
Well, yeah.
I saw their post on social media and I didn't realize they finished that bad.
So Herbst wrecked due to brake issues. So did
The
Bubba, from what I
23.
understand. And then the 45 went back into the garage as caution, as a cautionary thing to
I
just to
wonder
make
if he
sure
was
they're good.
feeling something up with his brakes and so instead of wrecking the car.
Well, I think when two of the three go go into the wall due to brake issues, I would be a bit nervous too. So I think they were
Oh
just like,
yeah.
let's get ahead of this while we can. But yeah, just an off week for them as well.
Someone forgot to nut and bolt the brakes
Yeah,
when they left the shop.
just a complete mess on that part. But let's get into We don't have a lot of questions or comments really, but one thing I just want to say is I'm gonna miss Prime this week, especially just really
They
showed
really knocked it out of the park.
they
I
did.
hadn't got to watch a whole lot of the racing because of things with the family, stuff going on in life. Just having my Sundays to rest and do other things. But from what a little bit I've seen, along with um, fan feedback,
Yeah,
Prime really set the bar. I know it's a little bit different than a TV broadcast. That was what I think Larry McReynolds a few weeks ago was trying to say. Like you really can't compare these,
yeah,
but
you can.
you've now opened a new there's a new standard almost, I guess would be the way to put it, and the way that the races can be broadcasted,
Yeah,
that I wonder if one day we might have like Netflix get involved, like put on some live races because they've done boxing. What other streaming services might get involved? I don't love the idea of like, say, old generation fans having to go buy a Prime membership,
yeah.
but I it's hard to say because they were doing caution free. You know, uh, they weren't going and having commercial breaks and stuff, correct? I didn't get to watch it
I
enough to
think when they
know.
do commercial break, it's always side by side. I think they have a
Okay.
bit more freedom in
But it's
their
because it's a paid streaming service.
yeah,
So,
and well, also like I also get that in broadcasting, you can't necessarily do the hour pre and hour post race shows, probably just due to time constraints. Whereas like streaming service, like this is
yeah,
not
we don't
happening on
care.
the
We've
next
got
thing.
this blocked off for all afternoon.
But that being said, when I look at what you can compare, meaning like how they do their graphics, how they do their just like the fuel race
Some
at
of the
the end,
overlay stuff too,
yeah,
which I want to give them some credit. I think you touched on this like two races ago. They had like a little graphic, an overlay underneath the scoreboard show up when it said pit road window now open. I thought that
yeah,
was so cool. I hadn't seen that. And it gives me a little bit of vibes like how F1 does some of their stuff.
hmm
They often do, they try to do a breakdown of like when the race for say third place, like someone is catching someone, estimated time, they give it like 3 lap window because they're sitting there counting down, how many seconds someone is
hmm
catching the other car. So it gave me the same vibes as what some of the F1 stuff does whenever I get to watch that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is Prime, I think, did a great job at emphasizing little things, and I would just again shout out to the commentators of Dale Jr., Steve Letarte, and Adam Alexander. Like they all gelled really well. You had one that could talk about racing, one that was just a good commentator, and also, just a good talker. But then also Steve Letarte just being able to break down the pit stops and he's gotten a lot better with his analogies and being able to try and relate it to something that we see in the day-to-day lives and everything. And just again, like you said, they knocked it out of the park. I also love the pre and post race shows of just Carl Edwards is just a refreshing drink of water.
Yeah.
Like he's just such a fun and humble guy to listen to. And then Corey LaJoy, I am sorry, I can't remember her name. Who's also
I think
there.
that's Danielle Trotta. Is that
Okay,
her name?
sure.
He
But
said sure.
I
Don't even
mean,
know.
I told you I couldn't even tell it. But I like they all did really well. I was listening to Brad Keselowski go in there yesterday, and like he was just able to talk. I didn't know Brad. I kind of forget Brad Keselowski is a very well-spoken guy, and I actually really like him in the booth.
hmm
Uh, there's a lot of
Well, he
drivers.
does some of the truck races, doesn't he?
Yeah, I just kind of forget about it sometimes, and every time he comes back, I'm like, oh yeah, you're pretty good at this.
Yeah, because it's Brad K, Joey Logano, Blaney,
Blaney's getting
and
into it.
then Cindric has done it a few times, right, up
Yeah.
in the booth. Is there
Hocevar
anybody
does it,
else?
but Hocevar he needs to reel back. Like he will talk for like 3 laps, and it's like, all right, man.
Oh, see, I haven't got to see that.
It was really funny. He did it at Rockingham, and I sat there once. I think he talked for almost 3 laps worth of racing, and
I
he
mean,
was
in
making a point,
Rockingham,
but
it's
then
like
also like,
25 seconds, but I guess
yes,
that is a long time.
but yeah, what like he was like say stuff, but then also like something would happen on the track. He's like, look at this pass. Back to my point, and then like go to back to the track.
That's
But it
hilarious.
was kind of funny. But yeah, there's actually some they showed who they're gonna have in the booth coming in the coming weeks, and there's some interesting like Bell's gonna be in there, Larson will be up there. Kyle Busch has already been up there, so we'll see that. But I'm curious about Bell and Larson particularly.
hmm
I've heard Bell talk, but kind of getting off track though. All that being said, I saw a
Yeah, Prime
promo
did a
for
great job.
and I saw a promo for TNT. Did not give me a lot of hope. I'm still optimistic, but like it was just not the best use of green screen in my opinion. It really looked. I actually watched La La Land this past weekend, and there is a moment that they use like it's on a green screen or on some sort of um, CGI set, and it reminded me of the same thing, which is not a great thing because La La Land was not filmed on a green screen only. Like it was just like this moment we're trying to, make it seem outer worldly and like yeah, just I'll just be honest, just did not excite me for it. Whereas Prime, you could tell they really invested in their promo material for it. But to wrap things up, let's talk about predictions coming. Are you going to Atlanta or Lime Rock?
So trucks are non-competitive pit stops this weekend,
I was
sadly.
wondering, yeah.
So we are only going to Atlanta
Yeah.
Friday night. I actually earlier on in the season was wondering if we weren't going to get flown in our charter plane up to Connecticut where Lime Rock's at after the
Yeah.
Xfinity race and then pit the truck race Saturday. And someone came back and told me it's non-competitive pit stops. But I'm kind of disappointed because I wanted to go up there and be with the guys. We just won, so we're riding that momentum and you want to be at the track with the
You want
guys,
to be with your boys.
especially after when you win, man. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
want to go back to the track. So little disappointed because then we have a
Also, new
3 week
track.
break. We have a 3 week break of no truck
Ooh.
races until Indy. So we go to Atlanta this weekend with trucks at Lime Rock. After that, I cannot remember off the top of my head what's after that. I know one of them is Sonoma, um, one of them is Dover, and there's another track somewhere in there in between.
Is it
We have three.
Iowa?
Iowa's the beginning of August. Iowa's the same day the Braves are playing the Reds at the Bristol.
Mm,
It's the Bristol game in the
okay.
racetrack. Because I've talked about possibly staying home and going to that game and not going to Iowa. But the Braves have not been very good this year, so I don't know if I want to spend some money and go do that.
Mm.
But I can't remember what race it is. I'm just I cannot remember for
Oh
some odd
well, it's not a
reason.
big deal
It's
right
all
now.
good. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's 3 weeks that we don't have any truck races, and so technically four for us pitting the truck.
Yeah.
But tomorrow night I get to have my road crew guys come out and run some pit stops just so
Oh,
if Lane has an issue. So tomorrow night's going to be hilarious seeing Clark, Alex, Rob, Dylan, Jonathan all have to work together on running pit stops
yeah.
if something goes wrong. So that will be, I might try to GoPro some of it. I don't think I
Oh,
would ever try to embarrass them, but just I want them to see what,
yeah.
they look like. Maybe it's for training purposes, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be a good time tomorrow night at practice.
Oh yeah. But let's get into predictions for Lime Rock. Who do you think is going to win?
First time we've had a truck road course since I think Coda last year. I think that was the only road course
Oh,
we had.
really?
This year we have three road courses. We have Lime Rock, we go to Watkins Glen in August, and then we have the Charlotte Road Course.
Yeah.
So basically, in like I think 6 weeks time, 8 weeks time, we have three road courses for the truck series,
That's
which
interesting.
I actually just was looking at like yesterday. But Lane last year at Coda had the lead when we had an electrical issue. So Lane can kind of ball out when it comes to some road courses, even though he's
Yeah.
known to be a short track guy. He also was not really on many people's radar to win Pocono. Went out there and kicked some ass. So
Yeah.
I'll stick to the 34, even though I won't be there this weekend. I'm gonna be rooting for the 34. I'm trying to think of some guys that are really good at road courses in the truck series.
Yeah. I've been trying to think of that too. And I'm gonna go with the 34 as well, just because that theory of how they broke the win last year and then they won a couple races after. And like you said, I do remember Lane running well at road courses, and I mean, of course, Corey Haim is always going to be in the conversation. He's just an
I'm
all-around
trying to think
great.
of who else is even
But yeah, I
like.
can't quite think of. I think there's also some people coming in from other series. I want to
I
say
wonder
one
if
of
like the
the.
7 or the '07 will have someone
I'm sure they will. I can't remember who they are right now. So, but just for now, I'll go with the 34. Um,
nice.
so yeah, let's move on to Atlanta for the Xfinity.
So Atlanta, dude, that's been Austin Hill's like
Oh,
it's been his stomping ground for the last what, two
yeah,
and a half years. He's won every race. He's won four in a row or something like that.
yeah. So I mean, he's a safe pick.
I want to say someone's going to end up just like dumping him. I don't want to see him get wrecked. I'm just saying someone's
No,
going to get fed up with the 21 winning that race
they
that they're
don't
just
have
going
good
to.
momentum right now. So that's kind of
He was really slow in the Xfinity race because I remember we were in like 20th and we were right next, like we were right behind him.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised to see the 21 back there with us because he's usually a top 10 to top 5 car.
Well, he also finished top five at Mexico City, but you could just listen to him after it. It wasn't like a relief, or it wasn't like a easy day.
He was relieved to be done with it.
Yeah. But so you're who are you gonna go with
So
for
for
Xfinity?
Xfinity, we actually finished really good at Atlanta this past year. Jeremy's a pretty solid
Yeah.
speedway driver. I would say I'm gonna throw it out there. I'll be like the 51 will pull off some kind of crazy race.
51. There we go. Yeah, I mean,
We
I
finished
think
ninth, if I'm not mistaken, when we came. It was either ninth in Daytona and 11th at Atlanta, or roles reverse, 11th in Daytona, ninth in Atlanta.
I'm gonna go with a bit of a wild card. I'm gonna say Ryan Sieg. Call me crazy.
He was close there a couple years ago. I remember being behind his pit stall because we had wrecked out, and he
Yeah.
was leading the race with like one or two to go.
It's
He
also
got
their like home
passed.
track.
It is their home track. They're all from the Atlanta area.
Um,
So
so let's get into cup predictions now.
Cup. Where are we at? Atlanta.
I like a Ford for Atlanta, but at the same time, it's kind of like
So
anybody's game.
front row has had some speed when it comes to these super speedways.
David Gillen is very quick.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Noah. What if
You're gonna
Noah
go
pulls off a
no.
win?
Ooh, that's a
I also hung out with Noah a little bit this past weekend. He was hanging out in our stall before the race. We said he was good luck when we came to the hotel. He was like 3 rooms down from us. We saw him in the elevator. And I joked to him, I was like, dude, you were good luck to us today, man. We You gave us our breakdown
yeah.
and then we went out and won.
There you
So
go.
I'm gonna share the love. I'm gonna say the four is gonna go out there and get a win at Atlanta.
As I said, I want you. You picked a Ford. I'm picking a Ford. I'm going to say Brad K.
It would be cool to see Brad get a win. So the 6 car or the 4 car?
Yeah, I'm honestly going to say any RFK is on the radar for a win right now. Brad K is probably the
The
least likely, but Brad
17,
K
the
has that
60, they're
IQ.
all fast. Yeah,
Yeah.
they found some speed.
Well, Brad has always been fast at any super speedway, no matter what the car. Like he just has a good IQ for those. And I think he's got some good momentum on his side, but at the same time, like I just again, it's like these legends that we knew from, their heyday that are switching over to this next gen that just haven't figured it out. Brad K, I would say, has figured out more than Kyle Busch, even though points standings don't speak for it. But I think Brad consistently runs more up
I
front.
almost picked Kyle Busch to maybe win this Atlanta
Pocono?
race.
Oh, Atlanta. Oh.
For Atlanta.
I mean,
Just
he
because he's been
could.
fast. He won the truck race there in um,
Yeah, he's a
March
good
whenever
pick.
we were there.
There's
But
really not a
I'll go
bad
Noah.
pick besides like a back running team. There's really not a bad pick for Atlanta, so that's what's hard.
Yeah.
But I like Brad K for it, and I think that does it. If you are new here, we have another podcast coming out later in the week called Pop and Top. Hopefully, it'll be pretty
Yeah.
good. Oh, it will be pretty
The
good. It's
preview for this week will we are getting Lane Riggs
yeah,
on Pop and Top. We'll be filming that and recording it most likely tomorrow. And
yeah.
so I can't wait to have Lane on here. We can talk a little about the race, talk a little about how
Hear
things
it
played
from a
out.
driver.
Hear it from him himself, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
I'm
like
gonna try
right
and
there.
relate
If
to
I can
him.
move my head enough.
I'm gonna try and relate to him at how frustrated you can get with Blake. Uh, so
I don't think the only time Lane's ever been frustrated with me was maybe Texas to Nashville when just
yeah,
shit was hitting the fan on the right front.
I'm gonna ask him,
But
does Blake play
he
with your
probably want to
Legos
throw a
too?
hammer at me um, through the
But
window.
yeah. Well, yeah, the Pop and Top's going to be a continuous thing. I'm not
I
going to
think
say
most every week we're gonna do a pop and
we're going
top
to try to do it every
episode.
week, but it is it's a bit more to put together, so sometimes it may not work out. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but it's gonna be exciting.
last week was very fun. So if you are new here and you are still listening, hopefully, yeah, look forward to that. It's a lot more fun. We try to keep it a lot more condensed, although last week was not successful
First
at that.
episode we went long.
Yeah,
We were boozing, which
yeah.
I mean
Well, you know.
that's the name of the show.
Sure, boozing, but also Blake was fuming, and
I,
so he had a lot to say. Uh,
yeah,
but
we cleaned it up. So,
yeah, well, let's
but
get on out of here. That way we can get back to our lives.
episode 12 is in the books.
Yeah, I gotta go tend to my sunburns. So I'm just
Have
gonna
fun,
go.
man.
I'm just gonna be rubbing lotion on me
I had to
all
do it
day.
last week. My skin's been peeling from the beach
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Well, I
Uh,
actually didn't get burnt like too bad this time. It's on my chest because I was wearing
is your cheeks burnt a little bit?
no, I mean, it looks
Maybe it's
like
just
it, but it
like,
doesn't feel like
okay,
it. But I'm
gotcha.
probably still a little red, but yeah.
Right
All
on.
right.
Good
Well,
episode. Till next
congrats on
time.
the win. And so, yeah, until
Thank you.
next time.
Yep.
10 away.
Catch
See
you
ya.
later, man.
5, 4,